Hey folks, this is me, Vishwastan. I'm the host of this podcast. A lot of times I've realized one thing, Solutions architects are one of the most critical component in a human linked environment in your SDLC. Like there's no security, there's no kind of a ninja style vulnerability that's just getting solved out there. There's a lot. There's a lot that I need to do and you need to do. And I think Saurabh sir is one of those people where you read his book, you understand why he has written a book on solution architecture because there's fundamental understanding that is missing out once you enter as a solution architect. And when you approach a problem statement, there comes a whole list of to-do list, which is required sometimes, but not required. I think probably he's going to address all these things in his books. And guess what? This podcast is for those folks who really want to get to know what went behind writing that book as well, because his journey is something which has to be looked back at. And if you are an aspiring solution architect, just go ahead and read that book and watch all his interviews that he has done, and it's already available in it. So thank you so much, Saurabh sir, for being on my show. Means a lot.
Okay, thanks, Vishwa, for having me. And yes, so as you said that when we are going into the software development, we are so drawn into the coding parts that it often overlook the various aspect of the architecture, which make your software the enterprise grade. And it's
Mm-hmm.
include especially the non-functional requirement, right? What you do with the performance or availability or disaster recovery, or how you continuing the business process. Okay, so making the architecture well-rounded, taking care of the security compliance is make a software enterprise grade, which people can use in the production in the real time. And that is the reason I came from the software development background. I myself software developer for a decade. And even when I switched to the role with getting in more exposure to that more senior level in looking at more holistic architecture and system design, I see this gap lies everywhere. Even in my understanding has that gap when I started my career. And that is the reason I wrote this book, and which cover almost all the aspect of the architecture which should have and must have for a software application.
Yeah, that book actually covers a lot. Like even if you think about something like some of the solution architects who read that book literally came back to me and you have to ask him this kind of a question related to DevOps and things like that. I'm like, let me just try that. And yeah,
Mhm.
of course, we are setting up with a lot of questions. So let's start with this first question on how to become a solution architect, because that's a missing answer in the industry today. Because the people think that you have to be from IIT to become a solution architect. You need to have this kind of a knowledge, that kind of a knowledge. But how to become a solution architect in the world today?
Yes. So if you see that, look, 5 year ago or in last decade, the solution architect role was not so prominent. And there is your role used to be the enterprise solution architect, and that was more business focus, right? So people who do the TOGAF certification and get real very senior in their career with a lot of experience, they go into that journey. But since cloud come into the picture, there is a lot of need, people looking end to end things. So what the job was enterprise solution architect. Okay, so I work with the network engineer, I work with the database admin, I work with the application architect, and I will try to stitch something together. But as cloud comes into the picture, now you have these things easily available in your hand. So now expectation from one person is you can go and configure the networking, because it's all in the web, right? It's all in website. Take example of AWS. You can log in into the web console of AWS and create the VPC there, right? So that is the networking part. And then you are doing the entire CI/CD pipeline, and then you're looking at the infrastructure also by spinning up the virtual servers or containers, okay, name it. So that's increased the demand of solution architect, and I think today it is one of the most short role. And if anyone want to become a solution architect today, so I will say that if you have the good holds on the software development earlier, then people evolve into the technical architect and then they become solution architect looking at other aspect of that. But so solution architect also has the different kind of role. So now it is not just limited to the software development, but any person who has the specific domain knowledge can become a solution architect. Now, if you, I have put that in my book, I think in chapter 2, I have talked about that. So there is a generalist solution architect and a specialist solution architect. So in terms of generalist solution architect, you can take this holistic knowledge and understand how my system should satisfy the need of security, compliance, resilience, disaster recovery, and then you can apply your experience and get into the solution architect journey. But if you are just have knowledge in networking, you can become a networking specialist solution architect. If you are database or if you are big data, you can become a analytics specialist solution architect, same machine learning specialist solution architect. So this is just a brief about role. But how to become that solution architect, I will say, looking at the future, I will say embark into one of the major cloud provider journey. Okay, and it could be the AWS, okay, one of the major cloud provider, or you can choose any one of these. Some other major players are also there, and do at least basic certifications there. Okay, so like AWS Solution Architect Associate certification. And certification is not guaranteed that hey, you are the champion in all those things, but it give you the knowledge that how you apply your uh, decade of experience or whatever you have gained and the on-premise environment, how you match with the cloud. And there is the most demand of solution architect. And then you marry those experience, because see, it is not the magic learning the cloud, it is the same thing. So what you are doing the on-premises, but it is a level more like a commodity and consumption basis. Earlier it was like you have to buy the server upfront. So if you can marry those things and apply your experience there, I think you will get the path to the solution architect. So my suggestion is start with at least one certification and then marry your knowledge together, whatever your experience have, and then look how you want to go beyond it. And after that, you can do some projects and you can find the role. And might be one, if it is first time in the cloud, you will find some role, and in couple of years you can evolve to the full-fledged solution architect role.
Yeah, I always believe in that one real fundamental understanding that is just going to change the way we are going to think about this technology, because your book talks about that. Your book doesn't talk too much of a jargon, because it knows at the end of the day, you talk too much of jargons, your
Yeah.
value stream mapping is just going to go down, because you're not adding value to that person who doesn't know what is a solution architecture. But at the end of the day, you will really emphasize more on the fundamental skills. So I wanted to know, what are the fundamental skill set that a solution architect is supposed to have today, because too much of an experimentation is going on. Like, if you think at the way in which Amazon delivers, it's like 11.6 seconds, one deploy happens. That's in a global team that we are just talking about. But there's a lot. So I wanted to know, what are those fundamental skills and what solution architect does in a project, because nobody knows what happens. Because once a solution architect enters, it's just thinking like, every call is a war room call and I don't know what happens. So what are the fundamental skills that are required today, as well as what is the role of a solution architect in a present SDLC or a project lifecycle?
Yes, yes. Yeah, so that is the good question. And from the skill perspective, I will more focus on the soft skill for the solution architect. Okay, how you can be successful in the solution architect role. Because if I will talk about the technical skill, the technology is changing in every 6 months. Okay, earlier you used to we say that hey, technology changing in 2 to 3 years, but I say in 6 months to 1 year everything get changed. So first things, for the solution architect, because you have the responsibility to choose the right technology for the application. And when choosing the right technology, you need to make sure that it is not only giving the faster performance and all, but you also want to see what the skill you have available in house. And if that skill is not available, can that be easily developed? And for that, you have to be continuously learning. So I will say one of the leadership principle we have in Amazon, learn and be curious. And I think that is the most important for the solution architect. You consistently look around and consistently learning what are the technologies there and how I can benefit to that, to my company. So take an example. If today people started with lots of C++ coding, okay, and then people moved to Java, and then we read Java and .NET, and we realize, hey, Java is actually abstract layer on top of the memory, and it is consuming more memory, doing garbage collection and all those things. So should we go back into the C++ to make application performant, or we should choose the Python? And then the latest trend is Rust, right? So Rust is like is more like a better version of the programming, where it used the less memory. And but if as a solution architect you are not keeping up with the latest trend, you might say, hey, you might stuck with the Node.js, you miss out on the whole wagon which is coming with the Rust, right? So you need to keep looking around, keep doing the experiment. And same things with the cloud technologies also. It is not just a lift and shift. This is like AWS is rolling out lots of technology which Amazon was using since a decade, and then now customer can leverage that, right? So it's whether you want to build your DevOps pipeline, or you want to build a machine learning model, or even you want to do the quantum computing, it is all your in fingertips, but you need to be aware of how I can utilize that. So learn and be curious is first things. The second part is very important for solution architect, how to draw the business value and tie up with the technical proposition, right? So if you are going in front of the CXOs and you are saying, hey, I am going to build a nice application for you, and this application will build on the cloud native technology and Lambda and Kubernetes and Docker, they don't care about that, right? They care about how my business is going to get impacted. So you are going to put a pitch as a solution architect. Hey, I can improve your team productivity by 30%, and then I can add 3% in your revenue. Okay, and that's what interests them. But behind the scene, then you will connect with you get their buy-in, and behind the scene, you connect with their engineering team, and then you bring the technology flavor there. So it's very important to this. Most of the time, the sponsor, the CXO sponsor is not technical. They care about the business. And it's solution architect responsibility to tie up the business proposition with technology and drive the real value from the technology. Don't get drawn into all the fancy and cutting edge things. If it is not adding value for the customers and for the CXOs, then might be you will end up without a sponsorship and not doing anything. Okay, so these two soft skills are very important. The third things, I will say the ownership is definitely, and where they need to make sure that they are owning everything and connecting the thread between the organization, from the business stakeholder to the application development and to the engineering and infrastructure and security everywhere. It is their responsibility, and that comes with the ownership. Okay, so these three things I would like to highlight.
Yes, lot of things are moving in a project, and nobody knows who is working on what. And there are a lot of decisions that you need to do, right? Fundamentally, can he work, or else let's take the scenario. You know for sure there's somebody who doesn't know that CI/CD tool or something, like he doesn't know what does that tool does, and at the end of the day, you put him inside the production, and now when the downtime comes, it's always look back at the PM, EM, the engineering managers as well as the solutions architects. So decisions play a humongous role in the SDLC or anything that we are just taking forward and looking on in it, right? So let's think about a standard set of rules. So what is it all about and well-architected framework, and what is that understanding that is required today? Because forget the fact that there is too many people here, but every cloud vendor has their own well-architected framework because that's what they want. So I wanted to understand what is the understanding that is required for a well-architected framework in the industry today.
Mhm. Yeah, so well-architected framework is something, if you look around all the cloud providers, this is more or less our same, right? And this is like a basic fundamental, as you say, to build a enterprise grade application, which can go into the production. And it is kind of evolving also with the time. Okay, so if you will ask me the well-architected framework, the first things I will say focus on the security part of it, right? Security, if there is any security breach, it can bring down entire company. It can result into the humongous fines from the government and local authorities, or you can get sued for billions of dollars, right? So security is non-negotiable. Okay, and that should be the first things, and that is one of the most important pillar for the well-architected framework. Then we have the operational excellence, where you are able to increase the productivity and remove the human factor from that. Okay, and adding the operational excellence is not just about the DevOps, it's also the DevSecOps. So in DevOps, you focus on how I'm going to build my code, deploy it, and all those things. Okay, and how my feature and functionality is working. But and often the posture is, if I will add the security, my overall things is going to slow down because there is so much approval required. But that's not the case. And if you truly following the DevSecOps, adding the security in every aspect of the DevOps, then you can achieve that easily. The operational excellence with the security. And there is various automated tool available, which I have mentioned in my book also, which can do the code scanning for you. And you can design a bot, it will do the code scanning. If it find any security threat, it will create the ticket and you can resolve that. So there are lots of things can be automated. The third is the reliability is very important. If your application went down like for an hour, okay, then it lose the big business trust, and then it is big revenue loss. So you want to have your application is very reliable, highly available, and how you are going to plan the disaster recovery and multiple and put in multiple places and multiple zones. Okay, even one zone's flooded, you are still running your application or something happened. So, and then you are talking about the cost optimization. So, which is like very important to increase the maximum ROI, and people are keep talking about the task. And especially in the cloud, where you have on-demand pay-as-you-go model, you have to be very careful with the task. If you leave your instance running, it is continuously billing for you, right? So you want to automate that process and very careful how you are going through the cost, make your budget, you are not overrunning the budget. Okay, so that is also important. And all these, and if you see the latest in the fold, we got this sustainability also. Yeah, so global warming is the real issue, and lots of companies moving toward the sustainability. So how you make your application sustainable, right? What technology you should use, that is the new things we want to use in terms of whether it is hardware or software. So hardware perspective, how much my energy my hardware is consuming. So like Amazon, that reason AWS published the Graviton, which take like almost 40 to 60% less power, and this encourage in the sustainability. And then data center are using the clean energy. And same if you are talking about the language, might be Python and Java is taking more memory, and that's what it is more. Those are not helping that much sustainability. Might be Rust and C and C++ is taking less energy. Okay, so memory, and that is so all those nitty-gritty details also need to see. So overall, this well-architected framework, if you go through, and this framework have the set of questions which you answer, and it helps you to think through, am I really building the application which can fulfill my customer demand and run in the production? And that's what I think every solution architect should have this framework in their fingertips, and each and daily life they should apply that if they are building or reviewing any architecture.
Yes, there is a lot. There is a lot to make in terms of that review, because that automation makes a huge impact in the CDs, CDSs, SLI, SLOs, and SLAs. So there's a lot. So how do you make decisions every single day? So I want to know on what factor do you decide on, let's not take this and let's take this, because a lot happens in a DevOps life cycle. Like, people think, testing is good, but at the end of the day, when the testing doesn't pass, you don't promote it to the next environment, and there is a lot of chaos happening. So how does that decision happen? So what are the factors which you use? Because huge amount of money is being shelled out. They really want it to be up for 24 bar 7, and decisions make a huge impact. So how are the decisions made as a solution architect in your everyday life? And also, what's the absolute impact that a bad decision can be made? Like, that's what I wanted to know. So what's the cost of it?
Okay, so decision life cycle, I will say, is early you decide, the better, less is the cost. One is went into production, you are already in damage control mode. Okay, so you need to, I will say, make the decision in every stage. So let's start with the top of the funnel, which is like the when product manager go and decide which feature I want to push down. Then this product manager do lots of due diligence, and they work with the architect. Solution architect has say into that whether it is technically feasible or not for the application, and they do due diligence like interviewing the customer, and then doing some experiments and understanding, hey, these things are fine or not. Okay, once the technical feasibility determined with solution architect, it goes into the development. Now developer will go and build a nice solution, and there is testing and all, keep it aside, that will happen. Now whether I should launch into production or not, that is the main things. Like, even though I have some couple of month dev effort went into that, but still it is not hampering my revenue in big way until it didn't go into the production. And the suggestion there, let's put everything whatever you are doing in the A/B testing, right? Because when product manager is doing the research, they are taking the small samples of the users, and it can go in other way, or data might have changed in that duration from the inception to the delivery. So we define some KPIs, right, while doing the A/B testing. And the A/B testing, we release the small amount of uh, the functionality to the limited number of the users, and see how they are responding. If they are responding well, I will increase from 5 to 10%, and 10 to 20%, and 20 to 30%. Okay, and see the reaction, and then I see whether it is satisfying my KPI or not. Okay, so my KPI, suppose for a website who publish lots of blogs and all those things, your KPI is this: if I'm restructuring my website, it is increasing number of views in my content or not, right? If it is e-commerce website, am I able to sell more or not? Okay, and that experiment you want to do in A/B testing by releasing to a small number of users in real time before putting it out. And once it get through that success parameter, then you put it out. So I will say, your how the things should go, what things should go into the production, it should be always the data back. It should not be someone intent or the my hunchback, hey, this will work. That is going to fail. Okay, but if you have data, it is always going to succeed. And might be, and you should have that, empower your team. they might have put 6 months of worth effort and put very nice feature, but if it is not working in the A/B testing, just pull back off. Okay, and see and rethink why it is happening. What else we need to do? Or we got completely wrong? Because once it get into the production, you already lost customer and revenue. So always take the data back decision and keep A/B testing embedded in your DevOps pipeline.
Sure. So a lot of things happen in SDLC level. So there is an unsolved puzzle of bugs which is still there in a production environment, and probably an upgrade of a production environment, the test environments, and the underlying environments as well. So we all know that, but at the end of the day, it's always about cloud adoption that everybody is paranoid about. Like somebody is on premises and everybody asks, do you have an enterprise edition of this software, which is an on-premises solution, and we are ready to pay for that as well. So there's a lot of hiccups that happen. So I wanted to know, overcoming the barriers in the cloud adoption, and how does that cloud adoption really have the cloud transformation in the enterprise, and what is its foundation? Because not all companies come to the case studies of AWS. Not all companies come to the case studies of any cloud service providers, because they know that they have to be an impactful adoption at the end of the day. So what is it all about when we are talking about cloud adoption, which is happening in the market and which sometimes has to happen in the market at any cost, and the impact of that cloud adoption in the market today? So how is it just going to change the way in which we are going to understand the market?
So I think the main factor here is the education, and if you will see that cloud is now not the something new, fancy, cutting edge things, right? It is becoming a new normal, and everyone is racing towards to get into the cloud. And why they are getting? Because it's some value proposition for that. Okay, and the great value proposition which I see, first you have the better visibility, right? Earlier, you don't know how many servers are running, how many ghost desktops are there, okay, and sitting underneath the desk. You have no idea. But with the cloud, at least you can create that centralized control, and anyone can visualize that, which is ultimately leading to the cost optimization. The second thing is you are getting the access to technology, which was never been before. So earlier was technology is very limited to running some application or server. Even people don't think about, hey, how I'm going to do the machine learning or AI ML, okay, or as I said, the quantum computing also you can do. But now the AWS itself had 200 services. So at least when you get these technology in your hand, it drives the innovation, right? And then you start thinking about it, and that is the reason you see that there is a huge wave where people are moving to the cloud, because of the agility, the innovation, and the things that they want to stay ahead in the competition, right? So but that's true that still a lot of things to do, right? It's a huge market, and still a lot of like enterprises sticking to the on-prem, and I think the more education is required, and some use cases might be on-prem is good, but might be then they are missing the bus in terms of agility and innovation. Because in on-premises today, if you say that, hey, I have come this cool idea, I want to bring this new things, I want to build the proof of concept, could you give me a server? And the IT department, you say, hey, we have ordered the server, hold for like 6 months, and then I will give you the server. By the time your idea will die down. But if you are in cloud, like might be if you have some approval process within the company, might be take maximum 2 hour 4 hour. But if you have the freedom, then within like a minute you will get your server and you start pushing your ideas, right? So and then that server can be controlled by the admin, so that they make sure that they are controlling the cost also, and you are not going crazy and putting a very huge server or database, right? So all those kind of check and balance is available. So from the cloud perspective, I think cloud transformation is going to grow multifold, And the hesitation is there because of the we need to put more education in the front and show the value proposition for the customers. And if you look at the references, at least the AWS itself have tens of thousands of the public references with the very large enterprise customer, okay, which give the testimony that how they are driving the success there. And that's how people are looking at others, and they are saying that, hey, if they can do these and move the entire enterprises in cloud and drive the big value proposition, I can also do. And that's how this wave is coming, and there is no stopping for it.
But there is a lot. So there's a lot that goes behind once we think where market is heading towards, right? So there is no right solution that we can really think about. And IT operation is just going like puzzled up because there's nobody who can really say I'm really secure. Even the best of the best organization and probably some of the best security strategies have also fallen down over a course of time. So I wanted to know how is an IT transformation just going to have more amount of security strategies as an importance in the future today? Because SDLC is changing, the way we think software delivery is changing. So how is security going to be rethink today in the world of SDLC that is changed forever? Because I want to know your experience as a solution architect. Like, how do you day to day, not in a war room, but in a day-to-day life, how have you implemented security in your team as well as in your organization that is having a huge impact because of that?
Right. Yeah, means as I mentioned earlier, security is the job zero. We says that means we give it highest priority. Okay, so anything start with the security. If you think anything, the secure and not. And for security, if you have to go into the war room, then you are already drowned, right? So there is lots of damage. You are in damage control mode. So security is best when you are able to prevent it rather than you cannot take the risk to be reactive on the security perspective, right? And that's what people need to change the way they think the security. And traditionally security means like it required a plethora of approval, and then it slow down everything, and that should not be. The security should support the today's SDLC cycle where we are going in more agile model. Okay, so security should support that. And I think there is a lots of innovation in that area where you can automate the entire security pipeline. And that's what I said that if we are talking about the development life cycle, DevSecOps is very important for the security. I think I have put almost a good amount of focus on the DevSecOps in the book also, the Solutions Architect Handbook. Okay, and so like to take an example, if you have the tools like Sonar Cube, right, you can go and scan your code, okay, and see if you are leaving any any leakage there. And in terms of leakage, I'm saying that you are leaving any password there. There are the other tools available. We talk about is there any secrets code you are leaving there, right, in which can and then you also that is for the application. And from the data perspective also, you want to categorize your data, right? Data security is very important. Ultimately everything about the data, what is the application, you are just your any application is collecting the data and then processing that data, right? So so for the data perspective, you need to categorize what data is the restricted, what data is sensitive, and what data is can be public, right? The first name can be public, but uh, your might be address is restricted, and your SSN and credit card is like highly confidential. You cannot compromise in any way. Okay, so that category need to make within the organization. And then PII data, which is the personal identification data, which by the government regulation you have to protect that, or it is the PCI data, right, which is for the financial industry, like your credit card information and all those things. things should be protected. And if you take the Europe, there is a GDPR, right? So all those compliance things is all local government has put for the security purpose. And then you have the tool. So like if you talk about the PII data, like Amazon provide the Amazon Messi, and Messi will go and look at your data, identify, hey, this is the PII data and what level it is got exposed and how you should protect it, right? So as a solution architect, you need to understand how I can do the application security, how I can do the network security, data security, or my content distribution network security to protect myself from the DDoS attack. Okay, how I can apply the web application firewall, okay, to protect myself from the external attack. Okay, and how I can put the intrusion prevention system. Okay, so all these intrusion system, also IDS system, IPS system is also in the place. So there is lots of things goes into security, and solution architect need to know at every layer, whether it is networking, whether it is content distribution, where it is routing your DNS, whether it is application, whether it is data, how, where and how to apply the security and how to automate that. Okay, so that knowledge solution architect should have, and application should not compromise that, even though it is costing little bit more, but ultimately that is what going to drive your business in the long run.
So yes, there is a lot that people actually talk about. So your book actually talks about solution architects specifically, and there is a lot of aspiring, a lot of actually a doctoral researcher who is wanting to be a solution architect. So how your book actually help in building such kind of a dream come true moments? Because everybody wants to be a right solution architect with right set of knowledge. So how is your book going to be actually, how can they leverage this book in order to achieve their dreams? Because there's no right path to it, but at the end of the day, there is a lot of guidance that is required according to me. So how can you feel that your book is going to impact? Because I know it has been an impact for a lot, but I wanted to know your perspective as an author, like what was in your mind and how can people really leverage this book?
Yes, yes. Yeah, so we saw for this, when I worked in this role almost a decade before, from switching from software developer to the solution architect, and I came across many solution architect because as part of my role, I handle the large team and interact with thousands of people. And yes, that knowledge was there, but it was very scattered, like how to become a solution architect. So the thought process when I was writing the book, the way I have laid out, let's first clarify what is the solution architect role. And that's what I put in the chapter 1. And then in the next chapter, I talked about what different kind of solution architect, because people were thinking I need to come from the software development
Once
background.
again, your camera is like the.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, you can now talk, sir.
So let's restart this question.
Restart, yes, sir.
Mhm.
Sure. So you have been working in educating people about solution architecture, and you have gone through that phase in which solution architecture has had a huge impact in your life as an individual and as a person who's in the industry. I think it's has a huge impact. So you know for sure this is right and this is wrong. So how can an aspiring solution architect, as an engineer or as a PhD guy who is just sitting down there and wanting to be a solution architect, actually leverage this book? Because I know this has been an impact for many people in the industry, but I wanted to know what was your perspective as an author when you were writing this book, and how can people or the readers who are actually reading this book can really leverage the knowledge that is packed in this book today?
Yes. So thanks, Vishwa. And I think this is a most important question. Many aspiring solution architect want to understand, and that's what I try to address in my book from my decade of experience in the solution architect field. And as part of my role, I am getting interacted with the hundreds of solutions architect. Okay. And so when I am writing, I thought, okay, what the journey I want to take to the people and what the question they are asking me on daily basis. And I used to get lots of question when I am attending the different conferences, and then over the LinkedIn and all, I thought, okay, let's get those things and compile into a, I will say it is a handbook, okay, which I can refer to the people and they can use the knowledge which I have gained over the experience over the years. So I started addressing what is the solution architect role in first chapter. Let's first understand that, and then go into the second chapter and talking about the different solution architect role. So there is a myth, right? You have to be very good software developer and then go to the technical architect, software architect, and then become solution architect. But that is not the always case. There is place for everyone, and that's what I explain in the book second chapter. And then when I moved to the latter in third chapter, then I talked about the third and fourth, what is the principle and attributes for to become a solution architect, right? So it's all about how you can make the architecture enterprise ready, where how you can drive the resiliency, what the standard principle is there, predictability, and as we discuss other things also like security or operational excellence, all those things, but basic principles. And then in I explain around 35 to 40 architecture in chapter 6. It talk about all kind of design pattern with the reference architecture, and that is the focus on the use cases, because just running the plain architecture doesn't have anything. So it is mostly working backward from the industry use cases, whether it is retail use cases or media and entertainment or financial services use cases, and then diving deep into the reference architecture and talking about. And then after that, almost 5 6 chapter, I talked about how to how to optimize kind of well architected those architecture, applying the principle which you have learned earlier. Okay. And there is a dedicated focus on the security, on the operational excellence, on the reliability and availability. And after that, I thought, okay, now you have learned about how to build architecture, learn about the solution architect role, how to build the architecture, how to optimize the architecture. Now how you will drive the operational excellence, and that's what there is a dedicated chapter in DevOps. And solution architect role doesn't end there, because you bring the value of the cutting edge technology there, right? And that's what I put a chapter on the data engineering, okay, and machine learning. So it's talk about now you collected this data, how you are going to get insight from that data. So let's build a data pipeline, put that data to the work, and that data will bring a more business for you. How you think that like Google, Amazon, Facebook all become a multi-billion-dollar empire? It is because they are utilizing their data. Data is the new oil. If you get the dig into data, get the right insight, you can drive the customer to yourself. And so that's what the roles is not limited to just application development, but data engineering is very important. And then you want to make the forecast the future on that, which is data backed, and that's what machine learning is there. Then I talked about IoT, because that's whole new things which you covered on the industrial space, right? Today there is lots of pressure on the manufacturing to increase their profit margin and increase the efficiency and build this factory who can have maximum productivity. And that's what I address through the industrial IoT. And finally, looking 10 years ahead in the future, as I said earlier, that solution architect know what is in the past and what is coming in the future. I put the full chapter on the quantum computing. And then I wrap up it with the soft skills. And soft skills, I stress in one of the questions, soft skills is what make you successful. It doesn't matter how much technical knowledge you have, but you are missing the key soft skills, tying up the business proposition and presenting in terms of CXO, you are not getting a sponsorship, right? So that is the full chapter I have put on that. So I think it's provide the end-to-end value. And I'm keep refreshing these books. It was second edition, so I added more things. Future we will add more, and might be I will do something more in the future to put more things on that. And even I'm planning to put out a book in Q1 next year, which is tell that how to be successful solution architect in AWS. That is kind of a good sequence of my current book, the Solution Architect Handbook. So this is the way they can leverage. And if there is any question, they can always join the Discord channel which Packet has put, and I will provide you the link, and I can directly answer their questions.
Sure, I think that's a great opportunity for anybody who really wants to get to know, okay, what is happening in the world of tech. I think do not miss this opportunity, guys. Please do not miss it at any cost, because I think probably getting an access to such great minds in the industry, I think it's very tough. And I think when they are ready to give you some time, please do not miss that. And I think thank you so much for such great insights. We didn't just talk about your book. We are just being a fan of the content or the education that you have packed in that inside that book, because many solution architects today proclaim that, you know what, I don't deserve to be here, but guess what, I've also strived hard to be here, and I'll always be striving hard to be the best solution architect for the future. And I think that is what it's all about. So it's accepting who you are and now evolving. And thank you so much, sir, for such great insights. It means a lot to me when you are coming on the show and giving such great insights for us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Vishwa, for having me, and I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you very much.